So our topic this afternoon is a little less specific, a little more open, and we'll see where it takes us. But the topic of the role of the rabbi, the role of the Rebbetzin in the modern day, and in the world that's rapidly evolving and changing, but there are some universal principles that no matter what's happening in the world, I think can apply. And I want to just share with you with no sense of authority or monopoly, just some of the things that I think about and some of the things that work for me, have worked for me, and that continue to inform and inspire my Rabbanos and my Avodas HaKodesh and the work that we do, my wife and I, our family, and our community in Boca. So I want to start with the abstract, and I want to talk first some principles, and then we can talk specifics about the Rabbanos, about shul, about whatever organization or communal effort we're involved in. But first some broad principles. I think that it's critically important. One of the critical important qualities in Avodas HaKodesh and the Klal work that we do is to have drive, is to have ambition, is to be energized, is to be a mavakesh, to be hungry and thirsty, to succeed, to grow, to be better, to do more. The work that we do is draining. It's exhausting. Often it's not rewarding in Olam Hazeh terms. And it's also not rewarding I was having a conversation earlier of the very people whom we're trying to help and recruit to come to our programs and our classes, to learn with them, to try to move them in a certain direction, and it can be very, very frustrating and very, very exhausting. And so we can get to a place in which we're just going through the motions, particularly when we're trying to combine what we do with also managing ourselves and our families, the responsibilities we have at home to our children or our marriage, the responsibility we have to ourselves. I gave a shir last night on self-care. Is self-care selfish or selfless? Self-care to be a better caregiver. And so a person also has to protect and preserve themselves, our own learning, our own growth. The work that we do can be exhausting and frustrating, and we can get into a place of being on autopilot. We're on autopilot, we mail it in, we get it done, we show up, we do our work, but we lost the edge. And I think that we have an awesome responsibility, we have an achrayus in the Kodesh work that we do to never ever stop being a mavakesh, to never stop wanting it, to never stop being hungry for it, to never stop being energized by it, to never be satisfied, to never be complacent, to never be apathetic, and to never get to a place where we're mailing it in, but to always remain hungry for it. I would say to be a mavakesh, a mavakesh. I alluded to it this morning earlier, but when Yaakov Taka sends Yosef to look for the brothers and he encounters an Ish, the Rashi tells us is in fact a malach, the pasuk says, Ma tevakesh, what are you looking for? And Yosef answers the simple question with the simple answer, I'm looking for my brothers. But if you look at the Kotzker, the sefer of his Torah's Emes Ve'amunah, the Kotzker says, Ma tevakesh is the key question in life. It's the question to ask ourselves. It's the question we should ask all the people that we're trying to inspire and learn with and love. It's the question to ask our children and our family. Ma tevakesh, what's your bikush? What's your goal? What's your ambition? What's your drive? What is your definition of success? People have all kinds of bikush. Some people, it's money, net worth, nicer car, bigger house, fancier vacations, holidays. For some people, the bikush is olam hazeh, is gashmis. For others, what's the bikush? Some people are driven by being healthy, health nuts, constantly eating right, working out more. Some people can be addicted to working out. There's a bikush. What's the drive? Some want to be the best in their industry. Some want to get that job. What's the bikush? Ma tevakesh. Kotzker says this wasn't just a question the Malach asked Yosef. It's the question we are being asked each and every day. What's your bikush? Ma tevakesh. What do you want? Because that's defining of a person. That says everything about who you are is what you want. What are the goals that we set? What are the goals that we set for ourselves? What is the ambition? What is the drive that we have? That quality, I have seen it time and time again. Time and time again. I could argue I've been a beneficiary of it in my own life. It can compensate for what's lacking in talent or skill. The strength and the energy of the bikush, of the drive, of the ambition, of wanting it, can make up and more than make up for what a person is missing in talent or skill. You see it. Sometimes people aren't the best speakers, they're not the best fundraisers, they're not the most organized, they're not the best delegators, they're not the best managers, but they want it more than anyone. They're hungry, they have drive, they have vision, they believe in it. It's theirs, they want it. That koach of bikush, of ma tevakesh. And so the first thought I want to pose to you, share with you, is that we approach what we do not just as a career, not just as a profession, not just as a source of income or livelihood, but to approach it as a calling. As a calling. This is why we're here. This is what we're meant to be doing. This is the definition of who we are. This is intertwined and wrapped up with our identity. This is what we dream about and think about, what we have a vision for, of a bikush. Our definition of success, while other people want to close more deals, land more clients, make more money, have more cars, we want to impact more lives. And whatever area of Avodas HaKodesh HaKlal we're in, however we want to define it, that's our bikush. Somebody wakes us in the middle of the night and says, what's your dream, what's your ambition? What do you work on? Who are you? Mativ Akesh, our answer to what the Kutzker sees as the quintessential question is in the work that we do. The difference between a vocation and avocation. To not approach it as an amateur, but to go professional. To go professional. And whatever's holding us back, in lack of talent or skill and a lack of resources, I can't tell you how strongly I believe that bikush, that drive, can more than make up for. But sometimes it takes a difficult gut check and looking in the mirror and being true and honest with ourselves. Sometimes it takes nourishing and nurturing that drive in ourselves. Who are the people? What's the Torah that we learn? Who are the Rebbeim we turn to? What's the podcast we listen to? Sometimes Chachma B'Gayim Tamen, maybe there's a podcast or there's a book in productivity or efficiency, something that's going to make us on fire, wake us up once again, get us going to change lives. What nourishes us? Maybe it's going through a file of old, beautiful letters you've gotten of gratitude from people whose lives you've impacted. Maybe it's remembering the people who give you a sipuk hanefesh. But to constantly review, ma tevakesh. Ma tevakesh. What's our goal and how are we going to get it? If you have no goals, you'll never get anywhere. What's the goal? What's the ambition? What's the drive? What's the metric? What's the measure of success? And how we're going to get there? It's a story of Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. The great Rosh Hashiva of the Mir was a young bacher learning in Grodno. He went to visit his uncle, who was the Rosh Hashiva of Nevardik, Rav Avim Yafin. And during the visit, when he visited the yeshiva in Nevardik, he asked his uncle, who is the best bacher in the yeshiva? Who's the best bacher? So his uncle, the Rosh Hashiva, pointed to one bacher and he said, this is the greatest amkin. He plumbs the depths, his penetrating insights, his amkos haTorah. This is the greatest amkin. He pointed to another bacher, his uncle the Rosh Hashiva, and he said, this is the biggest masmid. He's here all hours. He's here through the night. He's so focused. Nothing distracts him. This is the biggest masmid. It's the most diligent. And then he continued, he pointed to another bacher, and he said, this one is the best. And he went one by one. This one has the best Yiras Shamayim, the most greatest piety. This one is the greatest Bekiyas, has the greatest working knowledge of Kol Torah Kula. One by one, he pointed out each of the highlights. This one's the best at this, and that one's the best at that. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz asked his uncle, he turned to his uncle, the Rosh Hashiva, and he said, you've mentioned all these great Bachrim. This one's great at this, one's great at that. No, which one is the greatest Bachar in the yeshiva? So the Rosh Hashiva looked and he said, none of them. None of the above. So Rav Chaim was taken aback, none of the above. The greatest Amkan, the greatest Lamdan, the greatest Yiras Shamayim, the greatest Masmid. What do you mean none of the above? If not them, who's the greatest Bachar? So Rav Yafin, the Rosh Hashiva in Vardik, took him to one of the corners of the Beis Medrash, and he pointed and he showed him a Bachar. And he said, this one is the best Bachar in the whole yeshiva. So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz looked at his uncle, he said, he's the best Bachar in the yeshiva. He's not the biggest Amkan, the biggest Bucket, the biggest Masmid, the biggest... what makes him the best? So his uncle looked at him and he said, this Bachar is the biggest Mevakesh. He wants it more than anyone else. And he may not be the best of this, the best of that, the best of the other thing, but he's the biggest Mevakesh. And that makes him the best Bachar in the yeshiva. And that Mevakesh ended up being the Stipler Gaon, Rav Yaakov Kanievsky. Being a Mevakesh may not be the best of this or the best of that, the best of the other thing. We can all point to people, colleagues of ours, who are better than us in so many things that we do, but that doesn't have to hold us back. The question is, are we in mevakesh? Do we want it? Do we want it? Not only would that get us farther and accomplish more and achieve greater results, but it'll give more satisfaction to everything that we do. It's a pasuk that appears twice in Sefer Tehillim and in Sefer Divrei Hayamim. It's in our Pesukei de Zimra every morning. Yismach lev mevakshe Hashem. Yismach lev mevakshe Hashem. Let the hearts of those who seek Hashem rejoice. And the Chavetz Chaim explains that when a person searches and seeks something, and they're not satisfied unless they successfully find or obtain what they're looking for. In general, if you're trying to solve a math problem, you're trying to make a certain amount of money, you want to be able to buy a watch or a piece of jewelry, when you're mevakesh for something physical, tangible, unless you receive it, unless you obtain it, you're not satisfied. That bikush is not satisfied. The exception, said the Chavetz Chaim, is Yismach lev mevakshe Hashem. Yismach lev mevakshe Hashem. A mevakesh Hashem, from the Ruchni's business, you find pleasure and joy from the actual search. Just from the exercise, just from the search. Yismach lev mevakshe Hashem. Our work becomes more satisfying and more gratifying. Our work is greater just when we maintain that attitude, that ability to be a mevakesh. Be a mevakesh in whatever you do, in whatever we do. Have drive and ambition, set goals, measure results. Be a mevakesh. Be a mevakesh. Be thirsty, be hungry, want it. You know that mayim, water is compared to Torah. Torah is nimshuk hamayim. One unique quality of water is that it lacks taste. Water is bland. Water has no taste. So water is delicious based on how thirsty you are for it. Nobody reaches for a delicious glass of water paired with their steak. It's bland. It has no taste. You're not in the mood for it if you're looking for a fine glass of wine, scotch, a soft drink. But after a run, after working out at the end of a fast, there's nothing more delicious or refreshing than a glass of water. So Torah is like water. If you're a mevakesh, Torah is delicious. If you're not, it's bland to you. And the work that we're in, building Torah, growing Torah, teaching Torah, inspiring Torah, if we're a mevakesh, it'll be contagious. Others will pick up on it too. Others will share that hunger, that thirst, that desire to get to the next level and to do more. And that's number one, is koach habikush, to be a mevakesh, to be hungry and thirsty. And if we're not, check ourselves, why not? If we're burnt out. Moshe Rabbeinu is recruited by Kadosh Baruch Hu with the sneh. The sneh is boer ba'esh, but it's einenu ukal. It doesn't consume. So, I once heard someone say that leadership, Moshe Rabbeinu is recruited, he's the paradigm of leadership, he's Rabbeinu in perpetuity, forever. And why is he recruited through the image of a bush that's on fire but never burns? Because a leader can never burn out. We have to protect ourselves, we have to ensure that we never burn out. Add fuel, protect the fire, don't let the wind come, don't ever let it burn out, don't be consumed. We have to stay on fire. The day that you're not on fire, the day we're mailing it in, the day that our bikush is over, is the day we'll be unsuccessful in what we're doing. Be a mevakesh, because that compensates, even if one is not the best in other areas. The koach habikush ma tevakesh, what do you want? And do you want it badly? And do you want it most? And do you want the best? And what are you going to do to go get it? What are you going to do to go get it? We'll come back to one of the things I think we don't do enough of, but is critically important, is setting goals. And not goals in the abstract, not conceptual goals for ourselves, but Peter Drucker, who is a management guru, taught what gets measured gets managed. What gets measured gets managed. So do we measure and track to see if we're going to meet those goals? I would humbly add, what gets measured and recorded gets managed. What gets measured and recorded gets managed. If you set goals but have no measurements, metrics for them, you'll never achieve them. If you set goals and you have measurements and metrics, but you don't record them and analyze them and compare them and see them, then you won't set those goals. So what gets measured and recorded gets managed. Person has to set goals, we have to have bikush. Even more fundamental than that, is the incredible importance of taking achrayus. We're living in a generation where people want to pass the buck. Let somebody else take responsibility. Let somebody else step up. Let somebody else take care of it. It's somebody else's problem. It's somebody else's responsibility. We want convenience and comfort and pleasure. We want our own happiness. But the work that we do and why we are all here today is because we're taking achrayus for Klal Yisrael. We're taking achrayus for Klal Yisrael, which is no small feat. No small feat. If your fire is beginning to extinguish, if the bikush is beginning to go out, I find that the fastest way to light that fire again, to fan that flame, is to focus on taking achrayus, is to think about the Jewish condition in the world, to think about the statistics. There's a lot of conversation about anti-Semitism, for good reason, and I will share with you, I'm humbled coming back to London, because I'll tell you, not proudly, that for years we looked at you and we wondered, British Jewry, French Jewry, what's the matter with them? What are they thinking? Why are they staying there? Can't they see the future and where it's going? The stories we saw, what was happening, unfolding in the streets, some members of government. But we've caught up. What's going on in America? What's going on in Times Square? What's going on at Columbia University? What's going on in some of the offices in Congress? Anti-Semitism, the explosion, I don't have to belabor the point. Some of you I met yesterday outside your front door on college campus. Incredible threats and dangers. You talk about Mesiras Nefesh for Am Yisrael. I'm in awe, and we should be incredibly grateful. And anti-Semitism indeed is a big threat. But the threat of anti-Semitism pales in comparison, statistically, to the threat of assimilation. I can't speak to the statistics in the UK, but in America, anyone here know what the intermarriage rate is in America today? It's over 70%. Put 10 Jews in America in a room, and 7 of them are going to marry out of Judaism. Hitler could not have dreamt of that success. I'm sorry to speak so bluntly. That kind of a result, that kind of a return, our greatest enemies, in their wildest dreams, could not have imagined the success in exterminating us the way we are exterminating ourselves. And all the focus and all the attention on anti-Semitism is warranted, but it shouldn't be at the extent or to the distraction of the real danger. Because with all the danger, and I've been told that there are places in London you may not want to go, or places where you may want to wear a cap, but for the most part, this is what I was told, the average British Jew has not experienced or doesn't regularly experience anti-Semitism. And the same is true in America. As much as there are areas, pockets that are hotbeds and of grave concern, the average American Jew is not suffering or struggling. And certainly there's not a danger to our lives, our children, our future physically. But if 7 out of 10 Jews are marrying out, 7 out of 10, the assimilation, the intermarriage rate, danger, the threat, what we're doing to ourselves, exponentially greater, far surpasses in multiples what our enemies are trying to do to us. We should focus on them and stop them, but not be distracted from pouring most of our energy into ourselves. And that's, look who I'm talking to. That's what you all do and what you're Moser Nefesh for, what you've dedicated your lives to. That's achrayus, taking achrayus for Klal Yisrael, caring about Klal Yisrael, thinking about Klal Yisrael. When I was in yeshiva, one summer, I went to work in Esha Torah as a madrich and discovery program, a friend of mine and I. It was an amazing summer. That was back before everybody struggled with attention deficit. So discovery was 2.5 days long. Now I don't even think it's 2.5 hours long. And we had the very difficult task of finding people that we could recruit to come on discovery. So who's in Israel with no plans that could drop everything and just come for 2.5 days and is interested in exposing themselves to teachings that might force them to radically change their lives? That's not an easy job. That's not an easy task. And that's what my friend and I, as the madrich, the 2.5 days the seminar went on, we put out the soda, cleaned up the garbage. We didn't teach the classes, we were the madrichim. But the rest of the week, we were busy to recruit people. That was our job. So we came up with all kinds of ideas. We hung out in the Kotel Plaza. We made a fake survey so we could walk up to people and say, I'm taking a survey, and use that as the opening point to have a conversation. But to find people, I learned so much that summer. I don't have time now, but walking up to people, backpackers, the people, how did you identify someone you thought was a good candidate, worth engaging? Who was the most likely to come for the 2.5 days? How'd you do it? So the people we were working for suggested, you're in the wrong place. Don't just go to the Kotel. You need to spend time on Ben Yehuda. So I was from back then, and I said, Ben Yehuda? There's no way. I'm a yeshiva bacher, I'm a yeshiva guy, I'm not going to Ben Yehuda. It's krum, pritzus, there's no chance. They said, okay, Rav Noach wants to see you. So my friend Avi Pollack and I went to Rav Noach, Zatzal, and he had a conversation that was not unique to me. I understand he had it with many. And he said, I understand you don't want to go to Ben Yehuda. I said, well, I'm in yeshiva, I'm a bacher, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm trying. And it's not exactly where B'nai Torah hang out. So the Kotel, all the Jewish people hang out. I'd rather not go to Ben Yehuda. He looked at me and said, okay. He said, let me ask you a question. They're loading the train to Auschwitz, and a woman sticks out her hand, and you have the opportunity to pull her off. Do you say, I'm a bacher, I'm a ben Torah, I'm shomanegia, or would you pull her off the train? Would you grab her hand and pull her off the train? I'll never forget that conversation. Like I said, I understand it wasn't unique with me. I'll never forget it, the way he looked in the eye and asked that question, and essentially pulled back the curtain on everything you thought you knew and you were. And the next day I was on Ben Yehuda. I didn't pull any women anywhere, but we did recruit people to come to Discovery Seminar. In that one question, I'd love to tell you, I had a chavrusa with Rav Noach that summer. I went to him for a Shabbos meal. I spent the whole summer with him. If there was one or two other interactions, they were each one sentence long. I wish they were more. But that one sentence changed my life. That one question, what he essentially asked was, are you ready to take achrayus for Klal Yisrael? Do you want to look the other way? Are you only caring about yourself, your kedusha, your tahara, who you are? Or are you living a life that you're ready to take achrayus for Klal Yisrael? Are you ready to take achrayus? Are you willing to take achrayus? That's what drives and informs everything that we do, why we do what we do. That's our bikush, matavakesh, is because we're ready to take achrayus, because we care, because we want to make a difference, because we're the front line. We're the front line. If we don't, who will? If we don't stop the enemy of assimilation, how far will it penetrate into our people? We are those soldiers on this front line. And the achrayus is on us, Aleinu. And if we become indifferent or apathetic or complacent, if we become tired or burnt out, then who's going to guard the line? Who's going to hold the wall? Achrayus, it's on us. It's on us. So Tosefta in the 4th parak of Brachos, in this week's Passion, Vayechi, Yaakov tells Yehuda that Malchus, L'yasa shevet mi Yehuda, that Malchus will always come through Yehuda, David HaMelech, Mashiach ben David, it will come from Yehuda. Why does Yehuda merit Malchus, wonders the Tosefta? I thought I brought it, I wish I could find it. Maybe I have it somewhere here. The Tosefta wonders, why did Yehuda merit Malchus? Why was he worthy? Why was it given specifically to him? So the Tosefta offers a few explanations, a few suggestions. The first is that Yehuda was the one who spared Yosef. Instead of killing him, instead of leaving him in the pit to die, he was the one who said, let's sell him. So maybe because Yehuda said, let's spare Yosef, in that merit he got Malchus. So Tosefta says, no, that can't be why, because in the end of the day, he didn't say, let's bring Yosef back home, let's figure it out, let's go into family therapy, let's work this through. He still said, let's sell him. So it can't be he was rewarded for Malchus, because Achote is not Niskar, it can't be because of that. So Tosefta has a second possibility. Tosefta says, okay, maybe Yehuda was Zocha for Malchus, because Maisa Tamar, I don't have to repeat for everyone the storyline, his daughter-in-law, how she presented herself. Yehuda was with her, she took his objects, He accused her. She said, whoever these belong to. And in that fateful moment, that moment when he was confronted, his Ani Yosef moment, when he saw those items, he said, Sad kami meni, she's more righteous than I. He was modeh. He made an incredible admission. And through that hodah, through that admission, maybe he was Zocher Malchus. Because we want our leaders to be people who are capable of admitting. So again, the Tosefta Chazal saying that I can't be Chote Niskar. In the end of the day, it's wonderful that he admitted he was wrong, but he was wrong. So you don't get rewarded for being wrong even if you admitted it. So Tosefta is still left with the question, why was Yehuda Zocher for Malchus? Why was Yehuda Zocher for Malchus? And the Tosefta answers something amazing. Because Yehuda had a great-grandson. A grandson whose name was Nachshon ben Aminadav. And when Klal Yisrael stood at the shore of the sea, with the Egyptians in pursuit from behind and the sea in front of them, stuck in the literal, not only proverbial, rock and hard place of life, and everyone else, you can only imagine the scenes, the committees that were formed, the directors gathered and met, everyone had their idea of what someone else should do or whose fault it was that they got into that place, and everyone's debating and arguing and back and forth and pointing fingers and deliberating, and one man takes off his shoes and starts walking. Nachshon ben Aminadav didn't wait, he took achrayus. He got and stepped into the sea, and the sea didn't split, and again, everybody knows the Chazal, went up to his knees and his waist, and it went up to his shoulders, and it went up to his nose before it split, and the rest of the story. We know Chazal walked through, and we know Klal Yisrael walked through that Yam Suf. What did Yehuda do? What did he demonstrate that moment? What did Nachshon do? Achrayus. Mibnei ma zacha Yehuda l'malchus, concludes the Tosefta, because Yehuda was the progenitor. Yehuda instilled in the DNA. Yehuda created a lineage who were prepared to take achrayus. To take achrayus for Klal Yisrael. That's our role, that's our mission, that's our purpose, that's our why. We're taking achrayus in a time that Klal Yisrael are in grave danger. It's never been easier to be a Jew, in many respects. In many respects. More yeshivas and kollel and girls' seminaries and learning opportunities. It's never been easier. You could buy a pop-up sukkah, you could buy your pre-prepared glasses of oil for the menorah, and you could buy your pre-made, I don't know if they have it here in America, they sell, believe it or not, they sell pre-made salt water for the Seder. They now sell 10 pieces of bread for B'dikas Chametz, each one labeled 1 through 10. Soon they'll have a GPS device on them. A sukkah you throw in the air and it lands and it's a sukkah. Nobody picks out their hadassim and aravos anymore because they're sealed and the highest achsherim. It's never been easier to be a yid. It's all packaged. It's all prepared. It's all convenient. It's all easy. And it's never been harder to be a yid. Because of the opportunities that the world offers us, the invitation to assimilate and integrate and to disappear, we have to take achrayus. In 1946, the world was desolate. Chatzkel Levenstein survived with others from the Mir. They came to America for a short time. And he told the story of Chatzkel that he was sitting with other survivors. And they were reminiscing, Talmidim, about the best learning of their years, of their lives. The best learning years of their lives were the years that they were in Shanghai. The year they were running for their lives. The years that they were in transit, the years they were in Shanghai. Their learning and their davening described was on an altogether different level. A different darga. So Rav Chatzkel said, this was his lashon. Sham, over there in Shanghai, lamadnu mitoch tshuka shel achrayus. Over there, we were learning, not because we were stam learning. You see, they got reports in Shanghai that Hitler had finished off the Jews. You know, there was no internet, headlines, WhatsApp alerts. They were sitting in Shanghai and they thought the whole Torah world was wiped out. They thought they were the last holdout. So he said they were learning mitoch tshuka shel achrayus. That their learning had the achrayus. It was the only learning. If there would be learning again, it would be on them. They took it on themselves. It was on them. Achrayus. To take responsibility. To take responsibility. Not just to take any responsibility, to take extreme ownership. To take extreme ownership on our lives. We see this in many places. story of the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Elazar ben Dodaya, who also wants to pass the buck. Gemara talks about the mussar that he got from the most unlikely of places that caused him to run, to flee. And the Gemara tells the story how he turned to the mountains and the stars and the river, asking everyone, everything to intercede on his behalf. Once it was declared that he couldn't have Olam Haba. And it's only when he crouches and sits in the fetal position and he declares Eina davar talo yalabi, that it's on me, Alai, Aleinu, only then, Yesh kona olama b'sha'achas, he was able to acquire his portion of the world to come in that one moment, and he was no longer Elazar ben Dordaya, he was Rebbe Elazar ben Dordaya. The Ein Eliyahu, and others say that when he was looking to everyone else, the mountains is a mashal for his parents. Asai nai halaharim, say Chazal, asai nai halahorim. Saying to his parents, helicopter parents. We're past helicopter parents. We used to have helicopter parents who flew in to rescue children. Now, at least in America, we have bulldozer parents. They bulldoze a path and clear it out so children don't have to experience any discomfort, any effort. So he turns to his parents, no, helicopter parents, bulldozer parents. He turned to the Harim, to the Horim, and he said, come rescue me. He turned to the stars are the constellations. Luck, come on luck, come on my side. He turned to the river, to nature, and he said, it's not my nature, but I can change my nature. Come on, nature, kick in. And it was only when he accepted Ein Hadavar Taloi, Ella, Bi. It's only when he recognized and accepted that the matter rests, it lies with me alone. Achrayas, Alai, Aleinu, it's on us. It's on us to get it done, and if we don't get it done, who will do it? If we don't get it done, who will do it? It won't get done. It won't get done. There's a fantastic book. You could just read a summary of the book. It's called Extreme Ownership by someone named Jocko Willink, who was a Navy SEAL. I want to give a Hoshav Shiva Drasha around it. He liked the Mar Makomos. I'm not sure how much of it he understood, but I sent it to him. The title of his book is Extreme Ownership. Extreme Ownership. And I can't emphasize strongly enough how much this changed my rabbinate in my life. To not look at life and say, I'm a victim. To not be a spectator to our own lives. To not watch it from the outside. To not feel helpless and hopeless to what happens. But to take achrayas. To take achrayas. To take extreme ownership over our lives. I have a lot. I'm happy to share that. Shabbat Shiva Drasha Mar Makomos. It's many, many pages long. It's a lot of Torah. I'm happy to share it with anyone who wants to see it. But the thesis of what he writes, is the moment you take extreme ownership, not just ownership, not just responsibility, not just stam achrayas, extreme ownership. Ownership to the extreme. To look at our lives, look at our work, and say, whatever is not going right, whatever I want to change, whatever I want to be done better, whatever I want to add, what would it take to get it done? And if I took it on myself, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Extreme ownership. Too many people look around and point and blame and feel, as I said, helpless and hopeless and victim. I don't have the right chairman, I don't have the right directors, I don't have enough funders, I don't have the right colleagues, I'm not working with the right people, I don't have the right spouse, and my children are impossible, and my nature, and my life, and we can point to the whole world and blame the entire world. Stephen Covey writes, responsibility is response-ability. What's your ability to respond? What's your ability to respond? That's response-ability. Do we watch? Are we spectators? Do we blame? Are we victims? Or do we take extreme ownership? Do we take achrayas in our lives to look and to work and to change and to change? To fix what's broken, to execute a vision and a plan, to make it and bring it to a reality. Winston Churchill, see what I did there? Winston Churchill once said, the price of greatness is responsibility. The price of greatness is responsibility. If you want greatness, if you want to achieve great things, if you want to be a great person, then you need to take achrayas. Great people take achrayas. And there's so much to take achrayas for. There's so much going on in the world. There are so many challenges that we face. that we need to confront, that we need to fix, that we need to make better. Achrayus. How do we do it? How do you take achrayus? So I once heard Rabbi Efrem Shapiro from Florida, he once said the following. Take a look at the word achrayus itself. Achrayus. First letter of achrayus is Aleph. And the Aleph stands, Alufo Shalolam. We have to look at Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's the one who gives us the responsibility. He's the one who gives us the koach to be able to achieve whatever we do. The Aleph is a Kadosh Baruch Hu, begins with him. And the Aleph is also that it begins with us. We alone, extreme ownership, it's on me. The next letter is the letter Ches. Aleph and Ches spell Ach, brother. Only after we've been successful in taking care of ourselves, we begin to take responsibility for our brothers, for the people around us, for our family, for our relatives, to see, to care, to take achrayus for others. After Ches is the letter Resh. Aleph Ches Resh, Acher, other. Once our immediate family is secure, we take achrayus. We use our platform and our skills and our talents and our blessings to take achrayus. Acher, for the other, for the other. After Acher, Aleph Ches Resh is the Yud. Turns Acher into Acharai. Acharai means, this is the motto of the IDF, Acharai, unlike other armies, where the higher rank you are, the more you're in the back. In the IDF, the higher the rank, the more you're in the front screaming, Acharai, follow me, by example. Real Achrayus is by example. Not asking other people to do things we're not willing to do. Not speaking one thing and acting differently, but practicing what we preach and modeling what we're teaching. Acharai, after me. Follow me. Follow me. The next letter is Vav. Aleph Ches Resh Yud Vav, which is Acharav, after him, which means you're going to create, as Lord Rabbi Sachs Zatzal said about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, what made him great is he didn't only create leaders, he didn't only create followers, he created leaders. He created leaders. How do we learn to delegate? How do we learn to empower? How do we hold back from micromanaging? How do we engage others to achieve those goals by taking that sense of achrayus, that sense of excitement, that sense of bikush, of being a mavakesh, and creating an army, a team of volunteers and professionals who are willing to do it. So not only acharai, after me, but acharav, to not only create followers, but to create leaders. And the final letter, Taf, because achrayus begins with Aleph and ends with Taf, the last letter of the alphabet. It's achrayus from beginning to end. So each letter of that word, achrayus, is a message and a lesson of what we need to do and how we do it and how we get there to take that responsibility and to change the world. So I didn't get into specifics. Branding and marketing and conflict resolution and managing people and building out a team and a staff and all the elements that can go into shul life, rabbi life, Rebbetzin life. And there's a lot to talk about in each of those areas I'm excited about. I'm still learning and living and curious. That's my bikush. I love learning and listening, productivity, efficiency, vision, goals, strategy. What's next? What's next? Never we've arrived, but what's next? What's next? Our best is always yet to come. You can never feel your best is behind you. Your best is always yet to come. Frank Lloyd Wright is an award-winning architect in America, famous architect. He was once asked in an interview, old in age, accomplished, award-winning, which of your architectural designs, which of your buildings is your favorite? To which he answered, my next one. Your next shir, your next program, your next interaction, dvarim shel ma bekach, we spoke about earlier, casual conversation, your next personal tefillah, your next seder and learning, your next act as a spouse or a parent. Person has to always live with that ambition, our best is yet to come, that we're just getting started, that we are on fire, and we're taking achrayus to change the world. And when we take extreme ownership over anything, we can go so far. We can achieve so much. And their stakes are so high, because the dangers and the threats to the Jewish people, anti-Semitism is enormous, but it is the lesser of the two great threats we face. There is so much work to do, but I'm confident with the talent and the Mesiras Nefesh in this room, with the spirit of achrayus that we're ready to take, with a bikush, a ma tevakesh, to hear the Malach asking us every day, ma tevakesh, what do you want? What's your goal? And how are you taking extreme ownership to do it? When the people who I work with or I work for, complain, there's a problem, there's an issue. So I have a general rule in life. Don't bring me a problem if you're not also prepared to be part of the solution. If you can't suggest a solution, don't bring me the problem. This was the chiddush of Yosef interpreting Paro's dreams. The Khartoumim also knew it was a dream having to do with an economy and cycles. What made Yosef stand out, what made Paro realize he was in Chacham V'Navon Kamocha, was because he didn't only come with a problem, he interpreted within the dream, within the interpretation was the solution. I'm a big Yosef guy. The problems, I see all the problems. I know all the problems in me. I know all the problems in my community. I know all the problems of things we need to fix. I don't know all of them. I know many of them. Problems I got, I'm good. Come if you're also bringing a solution. When you raise a problem, when you see an issue, are you willing to take extreme ownership to be the solution? What would it take? What would need to have happen to get the result that you want? What would it take to get more people to Minyan? What would it take to more people to attend that program? What would it take to solve that problem on that building, in that campus? What would it take to work together? What would it take? What would it take? And after dreaming what it would take, are we willing to do it? Are we willing to take that achrayas? So I'm confident with the talent, the Mesiras Nefesh in this room, with the bikush that we have, and the achrayas that we're willing to take, we'll be zocha to siyata d'shmaya to have hatzlacha in all that we're doing. Thank you so much.